welcome to 2024. Welcome to our Empire Masterclass for 2024. And it's going to be a massive year of content, I think, like we did last year and the year before as well. I've got some amazing subject matter experts joining us here as we continue this amazing educational masterclass series for 2024. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Paul Jansz, and thanks for joining us today. Look, we're privileged a little bit. When I looked at the amount of registrations that were coming through when we first marketed this a few weeks ago, and I know there's a conference on in Bendigo as well, a Grant Thornton conference, and a number of people told me they're going to join in from there as well, which is fantastic. We've got people coming from South Africa, from parts of Asia, the UK, parts of the US, and of course, all over Australia. So thanks to you for joining us today. Now, we are here thanks to Hall Chadwick's Professional Partners Education and our amazing sponsors back for 2024. We've got Profit Master, Global Outsourcing, iKeep, and Lloyd's Auctions. Again, if you're joining us for the first time, let me tell you a quick 30 seconds on Professional Partners Education. Now, we're an educational content platform built for you guys, our accounting community. It's crossing over now to a little bit of professional services with our financial services and legal profession as well, but it's built for you guys. If you've missed anything, that's the great part about what we do here as well. If you've missed any of our content in 2023, even in 2022, it's all on our PPE TV Plus YouTube page. So jump onto Google, type in PPE TV or Professional Partners Education into your YouTube search. Up will pop up the page, and all of the content there is for you guys. So if you've missed anything, our masterclass series is all up there, what we call our lunch and learn workshops. So it's more of our practical technical sessions that we run as well with different subject matter experts. That's all up there as well. Just subscribe to the key, give me a thumbs up, and the content will come to you as soon as we post new stuff up there. So it's all there free of charge, and more importantly, claim your CPD. Now, I suppose we've got a massive group of people joining us today, not only because it's the first one, our first masterclass for 2024, but I think we've got an amazing guest joining as well. And, you know, to her credit, probably, again, the highest registered audience that we've had for our masterclasses in our third year now, which is fantastic. And she's obviously loved much by our industry. So, Amreeta Abbott, welcome to our Empire Masterclass series. How are you?
Very good. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm really honoured to be a part of it, especially the first one for the year. So thank you very much.
It's our absolute pleasure. We were talking probably offline, more importantly, and we were talking that how has this not happened before? But you know what? It's fantastic that you're on now, which is awesome.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know how we haven't collaborated beforehand, but I'm certainly just, like I said, I'm very honoured to be here and really excited to know that there's a quantity of people on the line. I can't see you, but you know, for all the ones that that I have seen, that I haven't seen for a while, hi and welcome and thank you.
Yeah, man. Look, everyone's going to have an opportunity to throw some questions out as well, or share some comments or whatever. You've got the chat bar below you there. So anything you want to share throughout the next hour or so, we'll be here till 1 o'clock. So anything you want to share, please do. Any questions you want to ask, please ask. I'll moderate those at the end. So we'll have plenty of time to get through. But you know what? We've got a lot to get through. So let's start with you, Amreeta. I know obviously you've been in the industry, and funnily enough, we've got a mutual contact there with Adam. It's funny how such a small world it is, isn't it? When we reached out, I was talking to Adam about it, and he mentioned you, and it's like, oh, isn't that interesting? So the Gold Coast, small place, hey?
I know it's extremely small up here in various respects. Yeah, look, you know, I've been in the industry. Oh God, when I was 29. Okay, so I'm 49 this year, so it has to be at least 25 something, you know, onwards. You know, years of obviously being in here, but yeah. It's good to know that we both know Adam. But you know, I started my very early days in a small practice in Palm Beach, which has now been, you know, passed on, sold on, but. Yeah, seen lots of changes, lots of people come and go, and some really good firms that have just, you know, gone through all the GST, the GFC, you name it, and still continuing thriving along. So, yeah.
Well, let's get into that. Let's say, so started in accounting, transferred to tech, and I suppose that's the topic for today is from accounting to tech and what's the future look like. So tell me a little bit about the journey And
Yeah.
tell me about probably, let's say, the reason for the switch to tech.
Yeah. So, my background is obviously in advisory and the accounting space, and which I really loved and enjoyed, to be honest. And business was thriving at that time. Markets were doing really great. Clients were great, and so forth. But what I found is that it would come sort of to Monday mornings, and I would find that there would be calls coming through. Can I speak to somebody? Can I get some advice? Mums and dads and maybe some Brads and Chads having their beers on the weekend, and they would come up with some wonderful ideas, maybe structural changes, or maybe adding someone else to their family trust and something like this. And I found that every Monday I was burdened by the fact that we couldn't deliver instantaneously. That, oh, okay, we'll have to take that on board, share a few more ideas. And I guess at that stage, we probably didn't have the true fact find, which I still don't believe the fact find is really the way to find out I guess you get the basic facts, but you don't really get to know the person. And, this one, group of friendship, there was a couple of guys that came in and they just had a wonderful idea. And they said, okay, we need to set up the company, we need to set up the trust, we need to make sure the structure's right, the foundation and so forth. And this was about a 2-week delay back then. So you would send it off to the lawyer would then put it all together, you'd get your special binder 2 weeks later, and then they would start. And by the time that would happen, this emotion or this momentum and this feeling of excitement started to fade. And so there's a couple of things entrepreneurs do is that they'll just try and find another way. How much, like, we want to go now. We don't want to wait. We're too impatient. And particularly for myself, like if I see something and I want to build it, I want to start straight away. But I found that I was sort of the burden in between, because I couldn't speed it up because of the way that the processes and the systems were going on. So, I was questioning myself each week, what can I do? This can't surely be the way of us letting another dream or someone else's dream come alive. And that's where I started to think tech. There's got to be a faster way, and there's got to be a better way to deliver the services. There's got to be a more accurate way. And rather than keep saying, no, it's going to take X amount of time, I wanted to say, let's go. Yeah, I'm here with you. Well, like, I'm on the journey, because I used to get really excited too, because the ideas were, they were just, some of the ideas I wish I could take for myself, but I wanted to help them, and I could see that this was a big part. So that was probably, well, I guess I probably had this very early in my stages of life, but in practice life, this is where I started to see that this is flawed. There's something wrong here, and I can't accept the fact that it's just because it's the way it is. So I was like, okay, what can I do? And in comes in tech. Yeah. So that was the leap. That was the catalyst to move on, to help the clients out, to get them up to where they wanted to be when they wanted to be.
And I think that's I suppose the great thing, even we were talking offline before we went live, and the ability where embracing tech and the fact that, whether it was Xero, whether obviously Mime's been around for a while, but Xero sort of started to take us to that next stage where tech's been around for a long time. I know we're going to talk about artificial intelligence soon as well, but AI, like you mentioned, it's been around for a long time. But I suppose from a tech perspective, what's the key thing that you saw? I know you spoke about speed to market, maybe being a little bit impatient, a little bit like me.
Yeah.
What drives tech in a business? Why is it important, or why was it important for you to focus on that?
Yeah, look, that's a really good question. And you know what, probably the most, another important question is, how do you make that leap? How do you actually make that difference? And, if I can put it in probably simple terms, is when we're doing a strategy piece of work, you're rewriting the same kind of context. There's obviously some elements that don't fit, for everybody, but sometimes there's a lot of elements that fit for the same person. But you're rewriting, you're recrafting the same sort of content over and over and over again. Probably the main example is a statement of advice. It's a template piece, and then you would just plug and play. And obviously the investments would be different, and obviously the 5, what risk category do you come along to, and then also So, for me, I was thinking, okay, how can I actually deliver that first? And how can I deliver a company constitution and a trust deed? So, that you go on ASIC and now I could get the ACN, instantaneously, but why can't I get the constitution? I'd be sending it up to Brisbane and be coming back and so forth. So this is, the paperwork was the starting point for me. How do I get the foundation of the paperwork to start, and then I can focus on their goals and where they needed to be, because obviously, as you know, for risk and compliance, that you needed to have all your, your pieces of paper in place. So I had to try and get that right. And to get that right, I was thinking, what was the major pieces that I needed? And that was obviously information from the clients, and then put that inside a Word template or a PDF file that I could actually deliver to them and get them going. So that was my first element of like, okay, how can I bring these together and get me out of the equation? And that's sort of where I started, and it was simply basically a web form, opposed to here is a clipboard. Can you go and fill these details out? Can you come back and can go da da da? So I was really looking forward to something that they could already get started, because most of the clients would actually say, "Is anything I need to fill out or bring with me or do whatever da 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 da?" Well, of course, why don't you start with this? And that was also, making it more efficient for me, but making, the clarity of the context of what they were actually coming in to see. I already had that. It was not second guessing the handwriting, and I wasn't waiting for them to come in to tell the story. I already knew the step basis of the story, so I was already on page with them, ready to go. So, yeah, the first step in technology was really, how do I get that information and put it inside a documentation, inside a document piece, and then start to really work on their goals and where they need to be for the business.
So if you did that, which you did do, it's a strange sort of way to say that, but as you did that, as you were creating, what was the end goal, I suppose, that you were driving that towards? Obviously starting with that bit of paper. And it is a funny thing, because how many of those times would we do that? There's be so many people online to be saying, yes, the way we do that is exactly the same every time. So you've taken that and your brain has gone, right, how do I turn that into an efficient process that, I think you said it before, efficiency will drive profit. So what was the end goal that you had when you started doing that, and what was it?
So when I started to think, with technology and how I could help, it was very B2C. So I was very client orientated, because I was seeing so many clients each and every day and trying to keep up with paperwork and so forth. As I started to move into the tech world, which was, like I said, just the starting place, was a web page that they could start to fill in the information. And then all of a sudden, I would be going to the accounting groups or, like to Xero, whatnot, and they were going like, how can you actually pump out so much work? How can you be winning like these awards of being the most profitable or the most efficient? Well, that's how I guess I started to move into the B2B, which was a much more comfortable place for me, because I was actually then helping accountants speed this up, and I could actually have a bigger reach, because they wanted to be more efficient too. They wanted to win more clients, and how we could do that. So I then started to segue away from the B2C clients in that point, and then started building technology. And the way that I did that, and I've been known for this, and I've said it so many times, I don't know how many webinars or podcasts or conferences, but, being a feature and feedback driven person, you just have to listen to those little pain points and go, okay, let's add this piece to it. Let's add that piece. So again, it was basic 101, just a web form, client fills out the details. And then I needed to find a developer that could actually help me convert that in. And then, the accountants would go, can I have that too? Like, what else can we actually pre-fill? What else can we get, their head start with? And so that's what I focus on. And obviously then I would run monthly workshops with accounting firms and say, tell them, give me another 10 things. Give me another 10 things that you absolutely despise that could be sped up. And I would just think of every single possible way that technology could resolve this, and making them more efficient and getting them back in front of their clients. And that's pretty much predominantly where I shifted the type of client base that I had. And that's where I could really see an abundance of like, and we're still doing it that way. And that's what you've been doing. And I would see this every practice, and they're like, is there another way? And I'm like, yeah, there actually is. So let's work with that. So it was, it was really exciting times, and it still is today. Because like I said, if, in my space, it's very easy. You just have to ask, 10 accounting practices what they hate most about, their work. And here's your next 10 businesses you can easily go on.
So true. Look, I just want to touch on one thing, because I wrote it down, and I think it's important to everybody online. There was a really important message there. Look, I love this sort of stuff, and I love what I do here. So, but one of the key things is I love learning from other people as well. So one of the key things there you just said then was feedback driven. You're a feedback driven person, and you went out there and you spoke to your clients and you got feedback and you put a strategy in place to improve that, whether it's to improve the efficiency, whether it's to take it from a paper form to a tech form. And that's a great lesson to every one of you guys that are listening. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, that if you can get feedback from your clients and then you can go and implement that, wow, it's powerful.
And you know what? They're your best friends. If you've got some, if you've got some friendlies in the campus, as I call them, they're going to come along for the journey, because guess what? They're going to benefit from it, and they get the opportunity to help shape the piece. And so, with every business that I've built, it's basically been wrapped around every accounting firm that I've spoken to, or an advisory firm, or an SMSF firm, of what their frustration, their pain points are, and just taking that, listening to that, going, actually, that's not too hard to fix. Like, why are we doing it that way? Why do we have to download, upload into another system? And then why do we have to retype? Why does, this human error, which is natural, we all have it, by rewriting this over 5 different platforms, right? It's insane. You just be going, there's got to be a better way. There has to be a better way. And, there always is a better way. So, yes, being a feature and feedback driven person, this is all I do. It's my number one. Like, just tell me what your problems are. Give them to me. Let me help. And then my mind just goes, wow, okay, I can easily fix those. Just give me some time. Yeah.
And not a difficult conversation to have either, is it?
Oh, look, everybody loves to
share. It's an easy conversation to have.
It's so easy. Everyone loves to, share their pain. And I think, even when you go down to, accounts to their clients, they will tell you, 5 or 6 things, obviously humans are a problem, but we can't change that too much. But, when it comes to, we just keep repeating the same things, and it's, really delaying the product or the service, or, the efficiency, which in turn impacts the profitability of the company. So if we can eliminate steps 2 to 5, well, you're already ahead.
There you go. Spot on. So let's talk about as a visionary leader. So as a visionary leader, leading change is something that would have been very important to you. And I think it's important to any sort of visionary leader. So what was important for you to, let's call it, visualize and then implement? So getting into a little bit of how you actually went about this.
Yeah, I think I'm very lucky, because I was sitting on both sides of the fence. So I could see the frustration from myself, like, really, I've got to do this over and over again. Or if I had an assistant, they were doing it over and over again, and I'd be just like, that's it, we're a team, we're not doing this anymore. Like, we've got to find another way. So I think, having the vision, maybe it's genetics, maybe DNA, my DNA, but I was always thinking ahead of the legislation, the regulations, what could possibly change, what would make a massive change. If we look at the Electronic Transaction Act of 1999, that hadn't had a change for such a long time. And my latest project, which was Anature e-signing, it's been around for 20 years. This is not sexy technology. It's not that hard to do, but we had regulations and legislation that would actually withhold the capability to be able to e-sign documents. I had to say, as soon as I saw COVID kick in, I was like, here we go. This is it's not new technology, but here's the opportunity where all the laggards, where the electronic transaction changed overnight, and that's the way. So you've got to better read where we're going, what's going to happen next, and then implement that. So I have ability to see, and again, talking to peers and talking to other colleagues and just asking them what else is it coming up. DIN numbers for director's identification number. What a basket case this thing was, and still is, right? But I keep reading, I keep looking, I keep watching, and just waiting to see. But there's always some other catalysts that could actually impact. And COVID is just a prime example of one of those things. Autonomous automobiles, the biggest thing, I was in New York demonstrating AI over there for Chartered as well. And one of the biggest things with autonomous cars is that there's not enough organs now, because less crashes. So, they had to now try and find a way to actually create new organs to be able to do heart transplants, liver transplants, and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, so you don't realize like the impact that it may have at that given time. COVID kicked in for me, and the opportunity for us was obviously the e-signing. We did 6,000 JobKeeper documents in 24 hours in Victoria on that night, and that was the start. So to have the vision, your eyes got to be wide open. You've got to be listening. You've got to be just tuning into what's going on, and that's not just from a you know actually hands-on, but other people that are talking, and you can pick on it. Like look at the PM, what's his name? He's resigned now, but from New South Wales. But he was one of these visionaries that wanted to digitalize everything, and he's done an amazing job as well. But it doesn't take much to see it. You've just got to get your head out of where you are at the moment. And yeah. And that's hard when you've got a busy business, but I understand that.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, there's always opportunity. There's always time. You can always find time for the things you shouldn't be doing, but it sounds like as a visionary, you find the times that you find the time for the things that you should be doing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But for me, it's easy. It's just every time I'm frustrated, that's it. There it is. Here it's coming. I'm going to change that. And, and then what you do, you set the trend for it going, here it's coming in no matter what. I found that with corporate compliance as well. Like, why do I have to deal with ASIC? Why do I have to do all this stuff? Why are my clients getting fined all the time? And we have to cop it, things like that.
So true. So true. So let's bring this into some, we'll stick with the visionary. Let's say for our budding leaders out there. I know there's a lot of partners out there. There's a lot of managers out there that are joining this sort of masterclass, wanting to learn from others. And this is what this is about. So if I had to take you through, let's say 2 key words, and one was visionary, what does that mean to you? And the second one is resilience. What does that mean to you?
I think, to be able to have the foresight to be able to see what people's problems are. And again, like I said, I'm lucky enough to have the feedback I get from people, but the vision is to actually not be so narrow-minded, think about the bigger way that we're going to go. And, when we look at AI, everyone's going, oh my gosh, we're going to get, it's a topic all the time. You said on all the forums, are we going to get replaced? Are we going to be this? Are we going to be that? And this is not the way that we should be thinking. We're going to go, okay, how are we going to work with this? How are we going to accelerate in our business? How are we going to have more clients? And what can this thing do for us? And, as I said, I think the first AI that came around was around about 1960, so this is not new. It's just us thinking it's new, our navigation satellite, that's been around forever. Where police are taking pictures of our cars and turning this into a fine and so forth. So, all that sort of stuff has been here with us. But the vision is now, how do I outrun and embrace the technology? And it's not about replacing people. It's not about sitting there going, oh my God, we're going to lose our jobs. Like that's the craziest thing I hear all the time, that AI is going to replace us. Well, no, it's not. It's just going to accelerate the growth of your business should you embrace it. And that's a really key point that I think, and I'm working on, building my next business all on AI, and no one will know the difference. It'll be just smarter. It'll be a lot faster. It'll be a lot more efficient, and obviously, help the practices out. But that's my one on visionary. But the one when we talk about resilience, for me, just purely means passion. So, even in my industry, which has been a male-dominating industry, coming into it, technology is very hard and fast, and you've got to, have your finger on the pulse. And you could write a line of code last night, and it could be no use tomorrow, right? But so if you want to use the word resilient to the feedback, or resilience to the industry's view or take on yourself personally, it's really overridden by the passion that you have about what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to deliver to, your clients. And so I've always tried to be resilient through my passion and go, understand why you're doing it, and just keep out that white noise. And that's what makes me so strong. And this is why I'm going to keep coming back. So, I may fade in and out, but I'm not stopping. I'm working on something. So if you think I've gone, I'm not gone. I am still here, but passion keeps you strong. It keeps the noise out, and it keeps you just focused, on the goal that everybody wants. And I think that's what really helps me. Just keep thinking about that, like stay in your lane, put your head down, and just move on, keep going, run. Especially technology, run. You got to go fast.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what drives you every morning? What's the I suppose you used a great word there, passion. I love it. What drives you every morning? Again, for other people looking at this and going, how do I become like that? What do I need to do? What do I need to change?
Yeah,
look, it's been like this, or is this something you've got better at?
I think I've probably been a lot like it, since I was young, or about the age of 16, I think one of my goals in my year 12 book was, what was it, to be a millionaire and own a BMW. They were materialistic things. But I was trying to find the easiest way to get to that. And it was always about, trying to find negative gearing and this and that and all these pieces of the puzzle. But for me, that gets me up in the morning is probably what keeps me awake at night. And that's just like, oh my God, like there's another good idea. There's something else that's came up. And, you just like sleep. So, I'm always bursting with like, what else? Like, again, this shouldn't be the way. And, whenever I get bills or if I have to print something out, the real estate agent, I was looking at moving down to Geelong and looking at some of the leases, and it's all still paperwork, going, oh, I'm going to go in and speak to this practice and tell them that there's so many things in their practice that is just delaying the whole process of either one buying or renting place. But no, really the things that get up in the morning is particularly for a new project, is just go fast, and that it's not talking about taking shortcuts or putting any risk in it. It's that once you get that momentum and once you can see what you can't unsee, that's what drives me. I just get up and just like sometimes, and I shouldn't do it, like I pretty much sleep with my laptop pretty close to me and just roll over. What was it? The things I was thinking in the middle of the night. But again, it comes back to passion. And you can just resolve. And I always believe that what would it feel like if I could say to Paul, okay, Paul, we've had a good coffee, it's been great. You've bitched and moaned about, this and this and this in your practice, and I think I found, 5 solutions that we can implement within the next couple of months. What do you think? I mean, does it get any better for you or me? No, it doesn't. It actually, it's such a good feeling. It's a very rewarding business that I'm in. So it's just there. That's what keeps me up. And that's what keeps me waking up early in the morning, getting to it. Yeah.
It's what keeps you going at the end of the day. And
look, I'm already starting to, my palms are sweaty. I'm like, all right. Actually, I just thought of another idea that I could probably do for another project that I can get out. But no, it's just resolving, like I said, just resolving these pain points. And once you get them done, there's nothing more rewarding than telling a client, we fixed it. And like, no, we've been waiting for this so-and-so firm or this so-and-so software vendor for 5 years, and you've done it. Like, yeah, it took a couple of days. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Now, we've spoken in the past about it's a hard world. You just mentioned, you grew up in a male-dominated industry, female entrepreneur. Probably maybe a little bit harder. I think maybe the last 5 years, 10 years has got a lot easier for women, but I think it's still very difficult.
Yeah.
So what do you do? What do you do to continue to push through the hard world? And tell me about, what do you call the hard world?
Yeah, look, I don't like to play the female victim, but it is still a male dominating industry. And, there's some, whether they're app partners, whether they're competitors or whether they're this or whether they're that, they'll come at you. They'll come at you all the time. And it's really hard. Like the first few shots that were fired, really, I struggled a bit. I was like, whoa, hang on. I'm just building a product. It's okay. You've got one. There's enough people here, and there's enough people in the world that can, fix it. My take on it now is a little bit different as you get a bit older and a bit more wiser. I'm not so frightened to call them out. If you want to have a go, let's have a go. And, I'm not afraid to use their name whatsoever, but, DocuSign obviously is the biggest competitor, or actually has the whole market, major monopoly, I should say, for e-signing, and having the conversation and bringing them out in 2012 after meeting with them in San Francisco and being an advocate for them. I said to Dan Springer before he left, like, why are you keep putting the prices up? And he said, because we can. And just those two words, because we can, I was like, so can I. I can change the whole model as well. So, there's different things that where I wouldn't normally be in a position. I would be much more humble and just say, let it be, let them run the race. But no, 400% increase for clients. And then charge you to download the documents for another 8,000 or something like this. And I think you've seen this couple of comments on LinkedIn, but in those situations now, I just stand behind the product. There's no point in having a personal attack at me. Like, go for it. You can call me whatever you want, blah, blah, blah. But now let's go head to head with the products. And if they stand up, and if we're not on parity, then we're happy to say that we're not on parity yet. We're still coming. But yeah, in the early days, I found it very, very tough. I was, quite sensitive towards that. And then eventually I was like, oh, my product's better. What do I care? And this is what the clients are asking for. And, and if they're buying it, then, even better. And if I can enhance it, great. So, I still think that for anyone that's coming through the industry, it's no different to any other industry. You've just got to, like I said, stay in your lane, try and put those things aside, no matter how much they can hurt, but you do become resilient to it. You try and ignore it and just move on. But yeah, became a bit of a tough cookie as the time went on, which is good. Otherwise, I'd be still in my fetal position in bed going, I don't want to build it anymore. But no. Yeah, I had a bit of a rough time, but like I said, I don't like to play the victim of the female, but yeah, it's still there. It's still in the industry. There's not enough females here that are coming through, but hopefully, I'm mentoring a lot and trying to get out there, like, yeah, live your dream and just build it.
So you are mentoring, did you say?
Yeah, like I've been to, a couple of universities and stuff like that where they're going, well, how do we do what you do? And, how do we just get through? How do we push through those, those barriers, and how do we get into those doors? And, I guess at that stage, well, it's hard work. Nothing's easy and there's no success overnight, but stand by your product. Shoulders back, be confident. If the product is actually what the clients have been asking for, here's the 10 things that they've requested, and you can deliver on those 10 things, you're already winning. Like, it's very hard for them to reject it. And those ones that do, guess what? They'll come around the next round. Yeah. So
well done. And I suppose something like going and chatting to DocuSign, that obviously gave you, because you had that insight of their mindset.
Yeah.
You probably saw that as an opportunity.
100%, because I was their biggest client as well. That's a horrible thing to say to your own client, but I understand that they've got shareholders and so forth, but you've got a 20-year-old legacy platform, and it was just something that I thought, well, okay, easy done. Next thing is to bring this in, and it was good timing with COVID and so forth. Not fortunate for the people that were actually impacted by it, but certainly for when Mr. Andrews put a 5K radius in Melbourne. Well, how are you supposed to sign your documents? And this opened up, I think, opened up the doors for accountants to actually have these virtual meetings, opposed to waiting for them to come in all the time. And again, this brings more efficiency. Maybe sometimes people just love to have a coffee with them. That's okay, but sometimes that's not possible. And I think that's changed in a lot of ways as well, which is, I think, is great. And this is because they wouldn't have survived without it. So, picking and choosing which technology you want to adopt, picking and choosing which one you should be scared of and which one you shouldn't. This is a prime one where people just say, no, look, it's not safe, it's not regulated, for risk mitigation, we shouldn't be able to do it. How can we prove that they were there or this? And now look at us. Out the door that went, because I had to sign the documents, I had to get things done, I had to have a client meeting, and you can't get across the 5K radius. So yeah, mindset changes overnight, just like that.
Correct. So what do you say to people that are maybe still in that scared element of what's happening? How do you analyze I'll bring it back down to a word that you used before. How do you analyze the risk in that?
Yeah, look, I think I feel scared for them. So rather than hearing, AI or bots are going to take over our life and we're not going to have a job, you not keeping up with it this will be your own
Mm,
damage.
mm.
You need to embrace it. You need to just find out ways to flip that conversation in your mind and go, all right, what can we do with these tools to make our business much more better? How can we make it much more personal? How can we see more clients? How can we be more engaged in their business and talk about, why they're running through so many coffee beans when they should be, blah, 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 blah. Just a little bit more intimate opposed to, oh, we'll go crunch the numbers and come back to you. Like that's just an excuse. Like you can't say that anymore because we know that the numbers are getting crunched one way or another. And generally it's not by a human, I can tell you that much. So yeah, like I said, I wouldn't be concerned about losing your job. I wouldn't be concerned about these bots and things like this. I would just be embracing it and going, okay, we're going to be right on top of it. Because also, too, when you've got the new graduates that are coming through, they're, depending on the educational system, but they're going to have to learn their social media skills, going to have to learn how to actually talk to people. They're going to have to build that rapport and hiding behind doing this, the crunching numbers or whatever it may be, is not an excuse. And you know what? The end consumer knows better too, because those adverts are going straight to them as well. So they're not silly.
Yes.
Yeah. So no,
And I think,
get on board and just find out what works for your practice and
yeah.
just strip it back, start again, and that's okay. And then just get going with it.
And I think you're right. I think, we've also got to a stage where now, whether it was COVID that drove it or whatever, and I think it's just the way that we are a little bit more impatient. We don't want to wait next week.
Yeah.
We want it now. And it's a bit like, I don't know, we've all got high-speed internet, but if we're waiting for 10 seconds longer, you just ask ourselves how we feel about that. What the hell's going on here?
I know, like pushing the button, like what's happening, can't connect. And remember those days with the dollar. I still remember it's stuck in my head. Like, and we were okay with it back then, but now, God forbid, if that was happening to us, you wouldn't do that. I think the same is like with Xero with its conferences. Everyone was excited to see the new products and every launch every year. And as you can see that they've developed out so much. When we go to conferences now, and if it's education, they're going, well, where's the new stuff? We want the new stuff. Is there anything else that we could actually add to it? So it's funny how mindset changes where, like, oh, should we, is it, has it passed all the rules and so forth? But now it's just like, more. We want more. We're getting greedy for it too.
Yeah, we are. And if we don't get it, if you look at something like, I had a meeting this morning where we were talking about the iPhone, the Apple sales are down because the iPhone sales are down because they're I've got the 13. I could upgrade to the 15, but I don't need to upgrade to the 15 because there's nothing more that it's actually going to give me.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
If you don't get the upgrade, well, then I don't get the sales. So it's an interesting. We are always looking for what's new, what's different, what's exciting. And you're so right.
And I think we will definitely with the iPhone, the change of the adapter or I think it's the C-type battery pieces just put everyone off. Like, oh my God, I've got to buy more accessories for
New
this.
connections. Yep.
Yeah, which I don't think was a very good move on their side, but and I think that'll put a lot of people off going to to 15. But we're just like, well, what's the difference exactly? And if it's no difference, we're not moving. And this is why I'm saying even for technology in my space, I have to be constantly knowing that, it has a 3-year, legacy life in terms of the technology, and it's got to be rebuilt again and again and again. Because, a line of code today could be just obsolete by tomorrow. It's so fast. It's just absolutely unbelievable how quickly things are moving.
Let's chat about that. So where do you think, or what do you think 24 in terms of the tech world is going to look like? I can't believe we're sitting here. It's the 15th of February. Happy Valentine's Day for everybody for yesterday. I forgot to mention that earlier. But, we're sitting here, it's mid-Feb. It's going to be finished like that. And what do you think, what can you see that's going to happen with the rest of 2024 and into 2025?
Well, we've had a bit of a shake-up, I think, in terms of, super male, super concepts, with their changes and things like this. That makes a new player come to the market. It'd be interesting to see what sort of tech stack they're going to come out with and things like that. Also, too, I think that the way that our client engagement, I think that's going to be there will be someone else in the market that will be actually looking at that, if that's what you're asking towards. But AI is going to be a big one. I think, using voice recognition. I was traveling through Europe last year, and I don't have a second language, but every country I was in, I would record in English and then do the voiceover with the lip sync that goes through it, and I'd be speaking in German. And, I sent it to a couple of my German friends and said, like, how close is it? And they said, it's probably, you sound too good.
I saw something. I think I saw something on Instagram about that.
Yeah, I did. I did, and it was just amazing. They just say, your grammar is just on point, where you'd probably need to throw in a bit more slang to it. So, to dumb it down a bit. So I was like, I don't know whether I should take that as offense or a good thing, but and this, the reason why I raise that is because this also breaks the barriers to do cross-border a business. So, for the likes of Anita, that's, with e-signing, again, my apologies, I'm not product selling here, but we can easily move into countries now. And, one particular one, to say, for instance, is Brazil, where it's too pricey to use the likes of DocuSign. This is the feedback that I've had. So it's secondhand, but I've still had this feedback. And now, how do we get into that market if we don't have somebody that is fluent and can speak the language and so forth and converse? But these apps that do it all for you, whether it's through the chatbot or whether it's through, our voice recognition, we can easily take one take of myself introducing what we do, how to, and then ask it to convert it and make sure that my lips are actually in tune with it, so it doesn't look, ridiculously then someone keeps talking. That actually helps you, for global expansion and so forth. And I'm playing around with a lot of that sort of new technologies as to what's stopping me from going further, what's the delay. And if it's a language delay, well, there is none now. If it's a chatbot delay, it knows exactly how to convert. Look at LinkedIn now. When you do a post that says, would you like us to reword that through AI? Yeah. Like ChatGPT, okay, that's great. And you can tell when people are using that, when you're not, but I'm sure a lot of students in Australia really appreciated it last year. But now on the bottom of LinkedIn, would you like us to rewrite that? So, it's crazy.
It is. So let's call it the AI and the bots. There's no doubt. Well, yeah. It's here. How fast, to everyone watching, I think we know it's coming. We hear what's going on, let's say, in the music industry, and the way that AI is changing the way that music is being created now. But it's been there for a little while. But in our industry, in terms of AI and bots, is it just about speed now?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be a lot of voice recognition. So you could be driving, can we produce a 484 form, and it will run back into the server. Out comes a 484 form for Paul Jansz, PTY Ltd. There it goes. Please send for signing. I built this with Rosie. That was her bot name. And unfortunately, she didn't stay on with Now Infinity after I sold the company. But the likes of this is what's going to speed it up. So, this voice recognition is going to be, it's crazy what it can do. And then send that signal back to the, like I said, back to your laptop, or send it to someone else in the admin team, or send something to another partner and so forth. And then out for mailing, out it goes. And this is all off, just you speaking as you're driving along. Could be going to see a client, could be doing this. So I think the voice recognition is a big one. But AI, for me, the new project that I'm working on is basically all on AI. So even if you're running, again, for developers, if you're running off two different, you might be a .NET developer, you might be a Ruby developer, it can now interchange it. So it actually can, through AI, it's like recognize, one's using this language, because you've got two developers, but they're both really great, but they don't know each other's language. And this can now interchange, and they can now converse and rewrite it into the preferred one, and technology's out. So it's speeding up the ability to develop products. And this is what I'm working on now, where you need, 15, 20, 30 developers here.
Yep.
No, you don't anymore. That's how fast it is.
Interesting. And I think that's the, a key message there is just to, again, don't bury your head in the sand, but embrace it, look at how it's going to work for your business.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. For certain, embrace it, embrace it. Different firms are at different stages, obviously, as they've gone through that early adoption stage, and as we've got some laggards, we've got some sort of in between the mainstream and so forth. But the ones that are really powering through and accepting it, I I'm not saying overwhelm yourself with too much apps, because I think then you're just doubling up. It's just silly. Just have the handful of things that you really, really need. And I think we can see consolidation of that that's now happening where they've gone, oh my God, everything's just so, shiny and new. And now we're going, okay, now what do we actually really, really need? And let's just stick to this. But yeah, I think there'll be some exciting things, but I think a lot of it will be around answering questions, coming back with detailed knowledge bases, and a lot of voice recognition for your systems, yeah, and a consolidation of the CRMs.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Good, 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 good. Now you mentioned your baby before. Let's have a talk about that. Let's talk about Now Infinity. Two things I'd like to run, or like you to run through for me, and that is, let's call it extracting value from a business. I grew up with the 7 habits, the Stephen Covey 7 habits of beginning with the end in mind. I know when I did a lot of my coaching, we're building a business. What does it look like in the end? Are you okay to share with our audience, one, how you went about building that value, and then how you went about extracting that value?
Yeah, so I think at that stage I was heavily positioned as an SMSF advisor. So I was really in the SMSF world. That's my history, that's my legacy, and creating the SMSF trustees, and then doing the deed of variations. When it came around with the CIS Act and so forth, and being able to build a system that could help with the deed of variation, get it signed off by the lawyers and so forth. That was where I really started, and then I was in San Francisco. I was at a conference called Dreamforce, which is Salesforce's big conferences. I think at that stage there was 110,000 of us, and this is my first eye-opening going, where are we in Australia? Oh my goodness, we're so far behind. How do we do this? How do we do that? And the reason I called it Now Infinity is because I wanted to have infinity documents now. Like, there should be no reason to slow it down. And as we were doing 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, and then so I started to add to that documentation suite, and that was the basis of Now Infinity. And in the end, we ended up producing somewhere in the vicinity of 5,000 to 7,000 documents per day. And outside of that, which again comes back into my feature and feedback, people go, okay, look, we set up a company, but we made a mistake. Okay, so how do we fix that? Let's go and talk to ASIC, and here comes in a 4844 or, the correction form. And all of a sudden, I can find myself in corporate compliance just by default, because this is what the clients wanted to see. And then, how do we do this? And, and we were the first ones to bring in e-signing. And then, okay, well, if you can do it for that, can we, integrate to, I think it was Workflow Max back at that time before they changed over. But my objective at that stage was really driven by the clients. I didn't know where I was until I was right in the depth of it, going, holy shit, what have I done? What have I started, and where am I going? But you can start to formulate the picture, and you can see all the entities, and you can see the spiral, and then how do they connect, and then you can see the deficiencies or the inefficiencies, and also the discrepancies between all of these systems, and trying to put them together. And so my goal was, and I didn't finish it before we sold, unfortunately. I probably sold a little bit too premature for where I wanted it to be, but it was supposed to be the whole heart, and we used to call it core and satellite back in the advisory days, but same sort of thing, that you would have the foundation, which is your deeds and so forth, and then you'd have all these add-on pieces. With Editor, I think the next step here was just because when I sold the company, I had restraints, and e-signing was not one of them. So it kind of made sense to go there. But e-signing now on top, well, hang on, there's got to be a little bit something more to that, because how do we identify the person? Because the biggest thing that we have that was coming up all the time was, how do we know if that's Paul or not? All right, well, let's do a biometrical scan of his face to ensure that you're getting him. And then obviously, I could see the legislation changing in terms of mandate of, knowing your client again, you need to take that next step of things like this. But the next one is naturally is payments. Like, and so, well, you know, you've signed, we know who you are, and would you like to make a payment now rather than coming into the office and so forth? So, you know, working on that. And I think that they're the three major pillars for Anitra. And now I've actually sort of moved on to my new project in the midst of building that. But I do have a end in mind, or I do have a closure point where, okay, I think that's robust enough. I think that's suffice for what the accountants are needing, unless someone comes left field and goes, no, we're going to, you know, build this thing right out of the account. I'll be like, I don't know about that one, because people have some pretty, you know, pretty generous ideas of what they would like us to build. We're like, okay, I'm only human. But yeah, so the end in mind, like definitely with Now Infinity, was to, you know, reach, you know, that 600,000 to 700,000 companies on ASIC, you know, and I take lots of, or I post lots of things on Facebook, which are my memory banks. And, you know, my first one was, we just made 3,000, we just brought on 3,000 companies from ASIC for corporate compliance. And now, you know, knowing it's up to 700,000 is pretty inspiring. So, yes, I do have it in mind, but, and like I said, then as I get out of that, and it goes into the mainstream and people are adopting it, loving it, then it's time for me to start on my new one, which is already in the back of my mind. So I'm like, hold, this one can come around when it's due. But yeah, and so, you know, someone said to me, "Oh, you just buy and flip your businesses?" No, I don't. But you know, I think if you get a right partner and you think that they're going to be good for the business, then, and if the money's right and all that, then you would sell. But outside of that, no, I love them. Like, I actually really, you know, people find it funny, like, is your business your baby? Well, for me it is. You know, I hold it very close to my heart. I give it everything I've got. So, you know, and it's just obviously doing very, very well. And Now I'm is in the hands of Hub. But you know, the next one, I don't know. We'll see.
Love it, love it, love it. Now we're clicking over to 12:53.
Yep.
If anyone's got any questions, I wouldn't mind coming back to one about value in a second, but if anyone's got any questions, throw them into the, what are we talking about here? It's called the Q&A. That's it. I knew I had to find that and try and work out what that was. So if you've got any questions, throw them into the Q&A for us. Now, while we're waiting for some questions to come through,
Yep.
in terms of value, what's the key things that you focus on as an entrepreneur, leader? What's the key things that you focus on to make sure you can maximize value in a business?
People's like time. You know, like if this is the question, if I'm reading it right, but time, where is time getting leaked? Where is time getting wasted? Where is time being repeated? And you know, you can't get that time back. So if I can give, and if I can add value for them, through by increasing more time for them, then I know that I'm doing my job right. And I always focus on that. So like I said, there could be people with really creative ideas and saying, well, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do that? Well, is it really going to save you time? Is it really going to do this? Is it just a nice to have? Which one is it? And I always go back to sort of those leading questions. Well, how much time and how much profitability or ROI they're going to get out of that particular feature? And if I can't see much value to that in those three aspects, then, you know, I generally would stay away from it. But that's what people really want, is more time. You know, we're tired. We want to go and look after our kids. We want to pick them up. We want to do this. We want to do that. We want to make more money. We want to keep going. So yeah, I really value people's time, and I really hope to bring more time for them. That's what I focus on as well.
Fantastic. Thank you. Got a question here from Nikki. How do you manage clients and their tech fatigue?
Their tech fatigue. Yeah, this is what I was saying. There's been a consolidation, I think, on apps and so forth. Everyone saw everything nice and shiny, and now just enough. You know, I'm bombarded by emails. There's another new product out. How's this different to that? And what, you know, we're getting a crossover. We can see that there's been a few acquisitions that are going on, and the market is shrinking very much. You know, and I think even with the likes of Now Infinity, there was so many players when we started, and I moved it to a subscription base. We're down to probably about 3 or 4 documentation providers. You know, you've got your low key ones that are still doing it, the legal firms, but like the big boys, like they've just disappeared. So to help the accounting firms with the fatigue is really having one champion in the office and then going, right, what exactly are you trying to achieve out of all of these things? Because you're doubling up, and it's no fault of their own, but it's also the vendors or the technology companies like ours are just slowly leaking into someone else's software, and then all of a sudden you've got the same solution spread across 3 or 4. So stop going to the conferences and listening to all of us. And then, maybe sit with someone like me or someone else that can just go, okay, what do I really need? And where we have wastage, because these subscription bills are loading up, they keep bloating each year. And I can see it in practice as well, going, you've got too many. You've got so many subs going on. Let's cut them back. Let's go back to the basis again. So it's kind of like this year would be a full rollback, and then we go again with a neater packet, and we've been tested. We know exactly which ones work, which ones are safe, which one's going to stay in the market, and go from there. Because I do think there's been an absolutely over excitement and of just, we need to have everything. No, you don't.
Great advice. And it's true. It's happening, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think you sort of mentioned it before, and I'm one of them as well. We all like our shiny new toys. It's sort of what we get drawn to. But it's great advice.
Yeah.
James, good to see you, mate. Well, not really good to see you. You can see me. I can't see you. But mate, got a question. What do you see as the role of any that tech can play, should play, using offshore resources? Well, there's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, this offshore thing? Sometimes it's in favor, sometimes it's not. Are we leaking data? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? It goes on and on and on. And, again, this is not, offshoring has not, it's not a new thing, but I think that we do have enough secure methods to allow them to use the technology that we're using. And I don't think we should deny them the same ability to be able to fast forward. If not, and it can increase your business efficiencies as well. But I know that there's been some hurdles where they say, okay, well, they can actually have a look at it, but they can't deploy. They can have a look at it, but they can't send. They can have a look at it. And you kind of have to go back to them asking yourself, well, are you getting any benefit out of it? Where does the decision lie in terms of the risk and compliance? And like I said, there's always, in the forums, there's always back and forward, like, no, you can't. Yes, you can. No, you can't. So I would say that, with the offshoring is great. I like it. I've had a Ukrainian team most of my life before I sold Now Infinity, and we just had the right secure measures in place to actually receive that data and to make sure that client data is not getting leaked and so forth. So we are much more advanced now. There's always a cybersecurity, there's always a risk of something, but it's no different from sending someone from a remote home. I don't believe.
I think and I'd agree. Obviously, working with so many accounting firms as well, I think the number one factor is usually security.
Yeah.
So I think if you can do your due diligence on what does security look like. I know there's a lot of offshoring people that do work from home as well. So what's their security like? Ours is probably a little bit different, but depending on the country, what's their security?
And I think also too, software providers, for the likes of Anitra, where if you have an offshore team, just setting their permissions, they can actually produce all the documentation, they just can't send. Once it's completed, it goes back to the Australian team and they review it, and then out it goes. So I think if you're looking for more software, or if you're looking to revise the software that you're using, those permission settings are key as well, because if you need to take into consideration the offshoring, then these are the parameters that should be inbuilt, and it should, like 101, like, just the access point to when. Xero's got it as well. You can have read-only files. You can't do this. You can't do that. So if this software doesn't have those capabilities, then you sort of kind of wonder why.
Another quick one here before we look to wrap up, as it's just gone 1 o'clock. We've been told that Now Infinity documents aren't covered under our practice PI, and some other providers are marketing it with this angle. What's your thoughts on this one?
They're not covered under your PI. I wouldn't know the reason for that, because if we're looking at the other providers, I'm just trying to do a quick processing in my mind. Well, they've got legal sign-off. You put the information in, you can send the review to the client to read. I don't know exactly what that would be, but certainly I can pass on a colleague's contact details. But it's got ISO certification. I can't think of why it's getting pulled up compared to anyone else in the market, because we obviously went through all the scrutiny of having that coverage and so forth. And if you have a look at someone like ClearDocs has been around for God knows how many years, and although that Maddix is the actual legal provider behind it, they're not reviewing every document that's going out. They review the template and it's gone up. So there's not much difference between all of them. It's just, I guess, someone's good at selling something in a different way.
So true. It's so true. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Geez, we've covered a lot. A quick one to you. Any final comments?
Watch this space. I'm really looking forward to coming back online in a couple of months' time. But outside of that, I just really, appreciate everyone taking their time out. I know that there's abundance of these types of podcasts and so forth. But Paul, I think yours is definitely the masterclass, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. And to all of you guys that have joined us again for our first one for 2024, thank you for joining us. Heaps and heaps of bits here. If you've missed anything, or team members that missed it, please, again, this will go into post-production and be online probably the next 48 hours. So it'll be up on our YouTube page. For all of you online as well, my next masterclass, I have a new series coming out, and it's about mastering profit through people. Now, I started a podcast on this probably 2-3 years ago, and we're now taken into a new masterclass, which is all about people and how you can obviously get more profit through your people. And I've got a whole heap of new subject matter experts coming online. So my first one is on the 27th of February. It's at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. So if you haven't registered, jump online, or actually I might even just quickly, how can I do this? How quick can I do it? Chat, where's chat? Okay. Here you go. If you haven't got the link, here's the link. It's going to the chat bar. Jump online, register. Again, all of this content is free. So it's brought to us, the new series by Profit Master Global Outsourcing as well. So I've got a HR expert joining me and talking to me about, or sharing everything about what you should be focusing on from a HRM point of view in 2024. And we're going to be covering off heaps of things, even some of the things to do with offshoring as well, and documentation and security and all of that. So that is it for us. Amreeta, thank you again. It's been an amazing hour, and hopefully to everyone online, they had took a lot of notes. And again, if you haven't, obviously the recording is going to be for you as well in probably over the next 48 hours. So thanks, Amreeta. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Take care.
My pleasure. Signing off till I see you next time. Thanks, everyone.